Alright, this is going to be a potentially sleep-deprived weekly recap from the 21st to the 25th, and I had a total of 12 trades, and of those 12 trades, 9 of them were green trades, which is a 75% winning percentage, and of these 12 trades, I did have these 3 trades right here where I traded a very small size where I was just trading something extremely small to see if the setup would work and not put too much money into it, but just put enough to say that I traded it and just get some realistic trading experience. So these 3 trades is like when I trade a setup that is very speculative, and I'm not going to paper trade it. I'm going to actually put some money on the line, but it's going to be a very small amount of money and just to learn from it. So I didn't really include these 3 trades in the stats because they're very speculative. They don't have to work, and it would mess with my stats if I were to include these trades, especially because the position size on these are very small compared to what I normally trade. I did have, which isn't really good here, only 44% of my trades of my actual trades followed my dollar risk level, which is this section right here. It should be $10 for OTCs, $5 for listed stocks, and I have not been doing good at that, but I am trying to get better. My average dollar gain was just $3, and I only had one actual red trade, which is this one right here. This one was a speculative trade, and this was a short with MULN, which I don't mind because this is something that I don't do too much, shorting listed stocks, but that was only legitimate red trade here, so that is going to mess with the stats a little bit. Maybe if I were to, do these stats over a longer period of time, it would be more accurate, but I definitely don't like this. My average percent gain is so small, so weak, so tiny, and there is a few trades that could have been really nice in terms of percent gains. I just simply have to keep trying and do better. And the main issue is maybe I wasn't selling as I'm supposed to. Maybe I'm selling too early. My average percent loss again, um, based off of this one trade, but that is there. My average position size is larger than my average position size on that one trade, but I am happy that overall this is something that, it seems like I'm starting to do better. I don't know, because the last week I traded like barely any position size, but now it seems like I potentially can be doing a little better. I definitely want to trade larger size, especially given how long I've been practicing and trying to trade. Day trade OTCs, but definitely I am trying to slowly work towards trading larger size, and I think part of that is making sure that I trade a $10 risk level or a $5 risk level on a listed stock that seems worth it. And my average time in the trade was 2 minutes and 50 seconds, which is fine. And again, that one trade that didn't work out, I was in and out at 38 seconds. So I made 19 bucks on the week. And that is trading a very small $2,100 of dollar volume. And yeah, as for did the setup work or not, I got a 75, and if I traded it well or not, I got an 80. And I guess it wasn't too bad considering the fact that a lot of these setups did not work out, that I was still able to do well in that sense. But I definitely need to make sure that I'm trading the right amount of size, and I sell better in some cases. Let's go ahead and look at the setups, go over the trades one by one to make the weekly recap. And let's start with the 21st of March, which is AABB. And this is a second dip under VWAP double bottom. So let's look at AABB for the 21st. Okay, so it's not bad. This one has been running recently, and sure, it's not the best because there is a lot of potential resistance from people having the shares a long time ago, but it's been a while and it's not really too bad. And the trade I had was right here. The first, I guess, legitimate red looking day after it's had this run up from this 9 cent level up to 17. So let's look at the 21st. Very volatile day. I was in 10:04 a.m. at 15:56. Let's just highlight from here. 1004 right here, 1556. So what was the idea with this setup? This one did not work out clearly. This was like a type of stock where it has a spike. It goes from 15 to 16, almost 17, and then it gets under VWAP, so it got back to this 15.63, and then it went from 15.63 to 16.6. And the idea was is that I try to trade around this VWAP line, which I find very important. And then when it dropped near that same level that it was at previously, I thought it could be like a double bottom under the VWAP level, which is the pink line, and then it can uptrend and ideally get to VWAP and get past it and maybe continue the uptrend throughout the day, especially with a daily chart that was supporting it. But this one, as you can see, did not work out. I traded a $300 position here. I got out the next minute, 10:05 at 15.7. So 10:05, I was right here out at 15.7, which was a pretty good sell. And let's see, yeah, it did not work out. I was out because I just didn't like the price action. So maybe that was a big seller on level 2 appearing. Maybe a bunch of people were dumping their shares at the bid and it wasn't looking nice anymore. Maybe the bid was starting to get smaller. I got out the trade for that reason. And yeah, the setup clearly did not work. It continued the downtrend, right? And I'm glad I cut the trade when I did, saying that the price action wasn't good. I then traded AABB again on the same day, and this is a late morning panic bounce play. That's what I mean by the number 5 pattern. Let's look at AABB for my second trade on that same day. 10:15, I was in at 14.35. So right here, I believe I was in 14.35. So right here was my entry. Why was I in it? So, I had an uptrend, downtrends, and then it kind of has like a bit of a panic, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a morning panic bounce play, but it happened slightly later in the day. Let me consider a buy right here, and that was when I bought at this 14.35 level. It did briefly break under the low right here, but I held through that, I think, and I got out at 10.19, 14.48. 10.19 is right here, this red candle. 14.48 was right here. This is when I had my sell, so I probably saw the downtrend. I saw an uptrend, and something I've been working on is doing trend lines to help with my selling. I drew a trend line probably from here to here, and then when it broke under the trend line in this candle, I got out of the trade for that reason. It did downtrend and never got to the day low, and that it just went to this level. It consolidated, but it eventually downtrended some more. But that was a good attempt, I think. And yeah, this one did not really work out. It kind of worked out because it did after my buy here uptrend, but it wasn't something nice where it would just go the VWAP or something like that, something more ideal. This wasn't really something that worked out, but it was a good attempt nonetheless. Let's look at the third trade here with AABB. This is called a VWAP kiss. I think it's the first time I noted that. Same day, I was in at 10:33 a.m., 14.48. Right here, 10:33, 14.48. So why was I in it? I had the downtrend, it uptrended, and this was my second trade here. Kind of put up a higher low, and my idea was that, maybe there's going to be a base right here. It's going to continue the uptrend. It's, down from the 17 level right here in the 14s. Plenty of opportunity for it to try to go and maybe kiss VWAP, touch it, or maybe uptrend slightly higher. And that was why I was in it. Again, the momentum wasn't looking bad. It was looking like it was potentially trying to uptrend. Clearly, the setup did not work out. And I got out at 10:40, 14.46. So right here, 10:40, 14.46 is when I got out. I probably didn't like the price action, especially with the big wick right here. And this is one where I traded just a small speculative position where I thought, all right, well, it dropped so much, and in it, let's see if it can actually try to make a move towards VWAP. Didn't work out. I sold for a slight loss, slight difference. I mean, a 0.14% loss, which is tiny, small size. This was a speculative trade, and it didn't work out. And that was the third trade I had with AABB that same day. Let's look at MULN, which is a reversal higher low squeeze. Let's look at MULN for the 22nd. Right about here. Not a bad uptrending stock. Very, I think it has a very high flow, but it still offers an opportunity to uptrend, which is nice. Let's go to the 22nd, which I'm gonna assume is right here. No, that's the 23rd. This is the 22nd. All right, and I was in at 10.16, $3 flat. This was a speculative trade, only a $30 position. I traded just 10 shares. And again, this was a reversal, higher low squeeze. Let's look at 10.16, $3. I'm going to zoom in a bit more, but keep in mind that they had a really nice uptrend towards the end of the day from the $3 level to the 360. So that was a 20% move. And just to go over it again, I was at 10.16, $3. So right here I was in $3. Why did I get in this trade? Well, this was a very nice one in that the 280s was a very significant level. It's kind of hard to tell now, but the 280s was like the bottom of these two candles and the top of this one. And the idea was is that it was very significant support. A lot of people are interested in shorting this stock, and the idea was is that when it went all the way down to the day low, I was too scared to trade it this time, but I did trade the same idea a few other times after this. When I got to the day low, and then it started to hold that important support level, it had a really big move from the 280s all the way to 320, which I thought was pretty significant. So when it did that nice spike, and then it came back under VWAP, and then it looked like it was trying to base here and be like a higher low off of this level, I thought it could get past VWAP and then uptrend even more. Best case scenario, it breaks, it makes a new day high, or just continues to uptrend or do something nice. But it did end up being a higher low from here, and it did get past VWAP. But as you can see, it then it made like a double bottom. It didn't really pan out. It broke under it, and it was a bit choppy. But I thought this thing had a lot of potential. It didn't really work out. I mean, it did uptrend, but it didn't, offer something too nice. And I got out at 10.19. 305. Again, I was in right here at $3, and I got out 10.19 right here, 305 right here at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, it did get past VWAP, but I didn't like how it wasn't continuously uptrending and it was starting to base around this level, so I got out. And it could have continued the uptrend, but that was me trading a very speculative position, and it did work out. It just wasn't too ideal. It did uptrend again, but it didn't offer anything too crazy. Let's look at AABB for the 22nd, and this is a morning panic bounce play second higher low. So let's look at AABB for the 22nd. Right here, the 22nd, so the first actual red day. I'd say that's about good. This thing did offer a normal morning panic bounce play. I did miss out on this one. This one was a super nice morning panic bounce play here, but I was just thrown off in that how it had just such freaky price action the other day. This day it just trades a regular morning panic bounce play, but it did it. I was in at 1036, 1303. So I'll just zoom in to make it look a little cleaner. I was in at 1036, which was right here, and 1303 was my entry. Really good entry, and the idea was is that it had a morning panic bounce play, right? And then it makes right here what could be a higher low, right? And it uptrends, and then it downtrends, and now it's like the second higher low off of this level. Not too perfect, obviously. This one in theory will be better, but I traded this one, and that is a higher low. Did I put higher low? Yes, I did. I got out 1038, 13.4. Right here, 13.4. This was my sell. I could have done better with this sell. This is the kind of thing where I'm trying to trade and get out of trades based off of VWAP, but in theory, if I were to have drawn a trend line from this candle to the second one, right, and then I extend that to the right, I should have considered selling when it was in the 13.5s, but I sold when it was 13.4 here, which was a bit early, and trend lines really allow me to take the next step and hold on to positions better, not just longer in general, but better, following a certain trend line. And in theory, I should have probably have taken a sell at the 13.5 level here, or maybe even worst case in this candle right here at 13.4. But at least I gave myself an opportunity to sell when it was higher, with the thing in mind that it could have continued even more. I could have gone to VWAP. Let me see if that was what I mentioned here. Oh yeah, and another thing is that I was actually considering trading 10,000 shares because I thought, okay, I can be in at 13.1. Worst case, I sell at 13 if it looks like it's gonna break under 13 and I lose $10. I wasn't really ready to trade that large of a position. It just felt like it was too much for me to trade. This with 10,000 shares would have been profitable, sure, but I would have traded a $1,300 position. And it's been a while since I traded something like that, but that is something I want to do in the future. And what I ended up trading is just 1,000 shares. But if I were to have made my risk level right here based off of the low, I would have had 2,000 shares, and that would have equaled a give or take a $10 risk level, as you can see right there. And that would have made things a lot better. But that was fine. That was me definitely trying to attempt to trade a larger size, and it kind of threw me off, but that is something I want to do and trade larger. And I should have had a better sell ideally in the 13.5 level right here. Or maybe, again, I saw at 13.4 because, started the downtrend and it broke the trend line and I wasn't able to sell at 13.5. That would have been fine. But yeah, this was a bit early of a sell at 10.38. And let's see what a sell at 10, not 10, but 13.5 would have been. Did I do that wrong? And then 2,000 shares would have been ideal. That would have been more profitable, almost 4% gain. That would have helped with the stats. Definitely a lot of things I could do better, but that was a pretty good trade for what it was. A great attempt. And yeah, not the best setup either, but it was a good attempt. And, it had opportunity. It could have, maybe not extremely as sharp as this trend line, but over time uptrended and got into VWAP. It did eventually do it way over here, but this was probably a bit too gradual. I want to, take the first step and try to sell better just using trend lines. But eventually, I want to be a part of something like that where maybe an uptrend, it breaks the trend line, I sell half, and then a downtrends, ideally a higher low off of the level, and then I can continue to work towards that and selling better and being much more profitable. But that was a good trade. Let's look at that's an I, right? Yeah. IJJP high day breakout for the 23rd. This was a weird one. 23rd is right here. For a very freaky day, you can see it went from sub penny 13 as high as sub penny 25, which is almost a double. Let's look at the 23rd, which is this day right here. Yeah. I wonder why it only shows one day. That is super weird. That is mega. Oh, I guess this is the next day. Okay, this is just a weird stock altogether. Let's look at this. I was in at 9:38 a.m. 22. Right here, 9:38.22 high a day breakout. So the high a day is 23, and I did see an uptrend. I saw it when it was starting to pick up, and I could have been in honestly at 21 or 20, but I was just not really in the mindset to really trade something this cheap and scary. But I was in it at 9:38.22 because it did look like it was starting the uptrend, and ideally it breaks 23, and then it can do something really nice into the high 20s, mid to high 20s. I got out the next minute at the same price, 22, and I didn't like the price action. Maybe confusion with level 2, but let's look at 9:39. Right here, I got out at 22. I mean, it did get to 24, but I just didn't like the way it was trading. I probably thought that it looked like it was going to break under 22, and while it didn't do it, it did get to 25. It did do it eventually, and it did downtrend and sell off the rest of the day. Let's just see what a sell at 24 would have been, although that would have been just very speculative and kind of hard because that would have been at the ask. That's interesting, and yeah, that's sketchy with these really low sub penny stocks. Just a tiny tick or two ticks makes a really big percent difference. Let's look at MULN for the 23rd, and this was a short setup. I traded MULN 3 times on the 23rd. Let's start with the first one on the 23rd. All right. 23rd is right here. And I was in at 1016, 328, red to green short. So let me just zoom in a bit more. 1016 right here, and I was short 328 right here. I was short at 1016. So why was I short it? Again, this is an uptrending listed stock, very sketchy, and it did have a first. Yeah, it did have a first red day right here on the 25th, but on the 23rd was right here. It still managed to hold itself, but why was I short right here? Because I thought, okay, this is the red to green mark. So, you know, it opened, it uptrended, it went green on the day, then it shot under VWAP, it went red on the day, kind of bounced, and it started the uptrend, and it did break past VWAP. But my idea was is that, you know, it's not going to break this 13, basically this 13, not 13, $3.33 level and go green on the day. I thought this thing might have been it. It might have downtrended from here and, you know, make a nice big red candle. It didn't do that. Instead, I was short right here at 328 and I got out immediately when it broke my risk level. 1017, I was out at, let's just say 333. Right here, 1017, I was out 333. I was out right here. I was short right here, and it didn't work out. My risk level was the very top of this at 333, and that's when I cut it. You know, it just continued the uptrend, and it went as high as the 340s, and then it did turn around, but then it started being all choppy. And I did trade it 2 more times, and we'll go over that. But yeah, this one just didn't work out. And I also had to pay a 50 cents to reserve 100 shares of short at trade zero, but that was a good attempt. It just didn't work out, and I should probably not consider shorting things while they're still uptrending and maybe wait for it to make a like a high, right? Like here's a high, then it made a lower high, then maybe I can try again, which in this case wouldn't have worked out. But I should probably short things on ideally the bottom half, not the upper half where it could still be uptrending and make a high higher than where you're shorts. Let's look at the next trade. This was a buy. This was not a short. And this was a right head and shoulders long. I was in at 1041, 334. So right here, 1041, 334. Why was I long here? Very simple. Shoulder, head, and then I'm in right here at 1041 thinking, okay, it can make a shoulder, and then I can sell into the top of the shoulder before downtrends, of course. And what happened here is that it just ended up being a little tiny stubby shoulder. It didn't get to the 340s, which would have been more ideal. Or best case scenario, it breaks the head, right? And then it goes like super green on the day, and it just continues to uptrend into the 350s. This ended up being a little stubby shoulder, and I was out at 1045, 336. Right here, 1045, 336. I sold at a pretty good level. I probably had a trend line at some point and it broke it, and I got out right here. Again, it would have been nice if it were to have uptrended more, but it didn't. And let's just see what it would have been if I sold at 340. Just out of curiosity. That would have been a somewhat nicer percent gain, but yeah, it didn't really work out. It kind of worked out, and I agree with that. And I was close to my dollar risk level. I guess in theory, should have traded 70 shares. I guess maybe 80. Yeah, I guess 80 shares. That's fine. That was a good attempt for what it was. It just, it did work out, but it made a little baby stubby shoulder. It didn't make a higher shoulder. Let's look at the next MULN trade, which is a short. So I did short this one again. VWAP green to red breakdown shorts. All right, that's a long one. I was short MULN at 123, 324. So I'm gonna have to zoom out for this one. 23rd is back here. Yeah, we'll highlight the entire day. I was short 123, which was right here. Let me make sure. 123, 324, right here. This is when I was short. And why was I short? This VWAP line was also the green to red mark. So when it downtrended and it broke this level, it didn't just break under VWAP, but it went from a stock that was up on the day to a stock that was down on the day. Pretty bad price action. And I had a horrible sell here. Not a horrible sell, a horrible short here at this 324 level, because a lot of times if it breaks a very important level like it was here, VWAP and green to red, a lot of times it will find a bottom somewhere and then it will uptrend a little bit, maybe come back to the level, maybe right under it, maybe right at it, maybe slightly above it, and then it downtrends. And then you can probably get a much better short location than where I did right here at the very freaking bottom. In theory, it could have been, better off shorting maybe at like 327, which doesn't seem much, but if I trade a much larger position, which is my goal, that's going to matter a lot more. And that would have helped me a lot in terms of holding the position better too, because I'm short at a better price. And I did get out at 130, and that was 321 right here is when I got out. And why did I get out? Because even though, it was under this level right here and it broke under it and it tried to get back and it failed, it would have been, a lot nicer if it downtrended and it didn't have so much freaking volume. The problem is that this thing downtrended to where it did with so much volume, so much panic selling, and I thought this thing just seems way too strong to have had so much negative volume hit the stock, and it only went from the 324 level to the 318 level. I just felt like it wasn't that good. So when it looked like it was starting to turn around, I got out, which was a really good call if you ask me. But eventually, if I have more patience, I would like to be a part of something like this where if I were to have held longer, I would have, seen this thing get as low as 310, which would have been really interesting. And just out of curiosity, what would have been if maybe I shorted better, right? 327, and I got out at 310, which is like best case scenario. Yeah, it didn't offer that much range, but I mean, this is something where I could trade, 5,000 shares in the future, and that would be super profitable. But yeah, that was pretty cool to be a part of shorts, even though I didn't have the best entry. It's just nice to be a part of a short setup that actually continues the downtrend further from where you were short, just to get the experience overall, and something that I'm going to keep developing, God willing. And yeah, that was a trade there with MULN. And I had one more trade on the 24th, but before we get there, there was high a day morning range breakout with AABB. Let's look at AABB for the 24th. 24th is right here. Yeah, just kind of freaky now. No longer as clean looking, but let's look at the 24th and remove this. 24th is right here. All right, and I was long 940, 1329. So let me zoom in a bit more. Just keep in mind that it didn't really do much. It did downtrend a little towards the end of the day. And I was in at 940 right here at, what was it? 1329. Right here was my entry. Why was I in it? I've seen this happen a lot with a lot of OTCs, that it kind of opens, it trades back and forth in a certain range early in the morning, and then it breaks it. And when it breaks it, some of them can make a super nice trend towards the highs, and this is exactly what was the case here. As you can see, when it broke this 13.3 level, it shot up and it got as high as this 1398, which doesn't seem too much, but in theory, 13 to 14 is an 8% move. When the OTCs were much hotter, that could be a 20 or 30% move, but it's good, I think, to consider trading stuff like that and be prepared for ideally when a market like that can happen. And I got out 941, 13.4. 941, 13.4 was my sell right here. In theory, this was a. Did I say I traded this well? I said I traded this okay, and I think that's fine. I didn't do my best sell here. In theory, what I could have done was, it uptrended here, and then it made a green candle right here, and then when it doesn't get lower than this level, and it continues to uptrend, in theory, again, the thing I'm trying to do to get better at holding is a trend line from the corner to this corner right here, extend it to the right. And then eventually I would have considered maybe selling right here in the 13.7s. And now, sure, I got to the 13.9s, almost 14, but I would have had a very comfortable sell into the 13.7s when it started to break under the trend line right here, or maybe even here at 13.6, but it still would have been higher than 13.4. And if it were to have gotten to maybe like 14.5, and it looked cleaner, I would have had a chance to sell at a much better price. And why did I sell right there? I got out because I didn't like how when it broke past this level and it just sat there, it was too uncomfortable. It kind of like just popped off and just sat around. It didn't trade anything. It was just not doing anything, and that was a little too much for comfort. And my fear was that it was just going to pop off uptrend right here, break past the morning range, and then, no more price action, and then it just sells off. And I was afraid of something like that. In theory, if maybe this one was more consistent and had more trading price action going through, I probably would have done better, but that was exactly what threw me off right here. And let's just see what it sell at 13. Let's just say 13.6 would have been. And did I at least trade according to my dollar risk level? Yes, and that's very nice. Let's see it sell at 13.6. That would have been a little better. I would have felt a lot better because, I sold at a better, not a better, I guess, number, but a better time period when the trend line breaks and not just, randomly when it just popped off a little bit. But I understand. I had fears that, it would just uptrend and then just sell right back off. So I can't, blame myself too much for that. But that was a trade there with AABB. Let's look at MULN for the 24th. I'm not sure why the screen is twitching like that. The 24th is right here. Right about there. And this was a low day breakdown failure long squeeze. Keep in mind this was another speculative trade. Literally, I just traded one share of this, so I didn't make much out of this, but this was another speculative trade. Let's look at my buy, which was at 1021, 299. We're gonna zoom in a bit more. That's fine. 1021 was right here, and 299 I was in right here. So very similar to the one that I didn't trade, where it kind of went to the 280s, a significant level, and it didn't break further, so it made a nice move towards the upside. Very similar in that, it had a nice move towards the bottom when it broke under $3 instead of the 280s. It broke under $3, which is a very key psychological number, the brown number of $3, and then it downtrended. But then it started to look like it was trying to catch itself and come back, and that's why I was in it at 299 at 1021 in hopes that it can, make a really nice move towards the upside. VWAP would be super nice, and just sell into something high like that. In this case, it did take a while. It was a bit choppy, but it did eventually get to the level here, although it didn't have a sketchy wick right there. Let's see when my sell was. I got out at 1024, 301. Right here, 301, 1024. So I probably maybe had a trend line, and then when it looks like it was going to break under it, that's when I sold at 301. It did get back to the 296 level, but as for what the setup was, it wasn't that bad at all. I didn't like break under the day low, although again it was kind of sketchy with here. But this is something that turned around eventually with that in mind, and it was a very speculative trade. And yeah, that was about it for that one. I guess I sold at 301.5, but that was a very speculative trade, and I'm happy to, trade a small size. Although maybe that was too small. Maybe 10 shares would have been better to trade speculative positions and not feel like I have to trade my dollar risk level, but still trade something, speculative and then learn from it. And then when there is a setup that looks more proper or less scary, I can consider my actual size of, again, what should be right now $5 with listed stocks, $10 with OTC setups, and if it's a morning panic bounce play, it can be anywhere from $10 to $30. And I need to remember that, if a morning panic bounce play, which is my favorite setup right now with the OTC. It looks super nice. I might and I should consider a $30 risk level. Let's look at the last trade, which is DPLS, classic morning panic bounce play that I feel like I did not trade well. Let's look at DPLS for the 25th. Very similar to AABB, has an uptrend from the like the 2 cent level as high as 8 cents. And I have my trade on the 25th right here. This thing can make a nice morning panic bounce play from now on if it has like a nice big red candle. And that is going to be something I'll be looking after. Let's highlight this right here. I was in at 9:47 a.m., 6:56. Right here. I don't know how, but I nailed the very bottom of this. I just had a great entry. And why was I in this trade? This was a later morning panic bounce. Way not too late for me to put late, but it was a downtrending, price action in the morning, a panic, and I was in when it looked like it was going to turn around. And how did I, you know, take a buy at this point? When the downtrending was happening, there was like a 1 million share bidder that appeared at the bid briefly, and I thought maybe is going to play off of that level, or at least if I'm in right here in a downtrends, in theory, that million share bidder that appeared on the level 2 is going to be able to catch the downtrend and I can sell into that. So, it's not something where I think it's the bottom right here and I'm going to buy, but if it doesn't, it's just going to fall off a cliff and I'm really screwed. The idea was is that because it's a big bidder at a lower level, worst case, it breaks the day low, which means I'm out of the trade and it might catch itself with that million share bidder. And then, I just have less risk of losing more money than what I would like to, because it might try to catch itself and not just go all the way to 60 or something crazy like that. Or in this case, probably 65. My entry again was pretty good, but my sell was horrible. I got out the next minute like a bitch at 669. Right here, 669 was my sell. And why did I sell? Well, I guess my sell wasn't actually horrible, but what I did was is that I drew a trend line right here from this candle to probably the corner of this candle. And what happened was is that I can't explain it, but really it just let's see my notes. Yeah, I guess I was just thrown off of that. It uptrended right, and maybe it was a little too much, and maybe it just threw me off a little bit when it had this consolidation candle, and I was scared I might turn around. But that's really freaking lame, honestly. But what I hate the most is that I just didn't even have the right amount of shares. I traded a $5 risk level, and I should have had exactly 10,000 shares, because if I were to have traded 10,000 shares, right, that would have been a $10 risk level, and that would have been perfect. But because I knew this was a 6 penny stock, if I were to trade 10,000 shares, it was going to be a $600 position, and that was just uneasy. But I mean, sure, the setup could have failed, but you know, it it worked out in this case. And this is a setup that I've seen plenty of times, and I had a really good entry too. Um, I should have sold better, but most importantly, I should have had the right size. I don't mind it too much that, I kind of uptrended and then I got maybe kind of scared and I sold here, but if I'm not even full size, why should I be that scared anyway? Worst case, it downtrends from this level right here, and then I sell right at my entry for break even, but I gave myself a chance for it to really continue to make an uptrend and be something really nice to sell into and make a lot more money with, but I didn't do that. I was too scared. And if I'm in the same situation like this again, where it makes an uptrend and I can't really draw a trend line perhaps, what I can do is just risk my original entry. So if it goes back to my original entry after it has a big jump, from my entry, I can potentially have that in mind, and then that will let me hold on to the trade better. And in this case, it worked out, would have sold better. But if it downtrends, well, at least I don't lose anything. But I gave myself a chance to sell, potentially sell it at a much higher price if it were to have worked out. So that was the idea with that. I should have had 10,000 shares, and I probably should have been better with my, sell. But I think in the future, again, if it happens like this again, I'll definitely do that. Now, if it just uptrends a little bit right here, and then it's kind of chilling right near my level, then okay, and then I can draw like a trend line that's proper, okay, maybe I might consider an early sell in that case. But this is where I could have been a lot more profitable. And in theory, let's just draw a trend line from this level right here to the first candle right here that was actually uptrending, or maybe actually, no, let's do it from here. This candle to the first candle that was uptrending after it was trading here for a little bit. I'd say right around here. Extend that to the right. And again, you might say, okay, hindsight is 2020, right? Oh, geez, it looks kind of ugly like this. Never mind, I'll leave it the way it was, but this is the way I've been trading this for a while, and it seems to work out nicely. Now, I probably would have considered selling here at VWAP, even though it would still be above the trend line, and I would have been very happy there, but eventually it did cross it here, so a worst case would have been a sell at 678. Let's see what a sell at 678 would have been, right? And now let's trade the proper size. That would have been $22. That would have been a 3% gain. That would have been super nice. Now, at least I didn't lose money, but it was going to be hard to lose money because, in this case, it didn't break under the level. Not even like here at 11 a.m., but I just need to have that in mind that I shouldn't be too scared. I'm not even trading with that much money, and to really focus on using trend lines to sell better. And it's not like a hindsight thing because I've used trend lines successfully to sell at much higher prices than what I would normally do. And eventually, again, I want to be at a point where maybe I sell half at the trend line break or maybe half at VWAP and then sell the other half if it downtrends and breaks like a bottom that it was trading. So I don't want to make this too boring and intricate, but in theory it uptrends. I sell half at VWAP, and this is the bottom of the range it made. So I would sell if it were to have broken under this level, if it got to VWAP downtrends and then it breaks this level. But then maybe I give myself a chance to sell the other half at something higher right here when it started to do this topping action in the 696 level, and maybe a sell in the 6/8 because it didn't really work that much after that move towards VWAP here, and it kind of downtrended. But I definitely need to get better at selling, and I need to get better at trading the proper size. That's all I have for today, and I guess at 9:30, God willing, the market will be open and I'll be looking at new setups, especially DPLS for a potential morning panic bounce play. That's all I have. I need to get a lot better selling. I need to have the right size, and if I can do that, I can continue to have a nice potential $20, $30 gain, really boost my confidence and slowly trade higher dollar risk levels and be a proper day trader in that sense. I got a long way to go, but at least I see the path I have to take, and that's all I have for this video here.